Shiatsu massage therapist, and for the last 14 years, I've been helping women get their lives back after having a narcissist. Whether they decide to stay, whether they decide to go, whether they're not sure yet, whether they need support through the divorce process, whether it's someone who's a soulmate and you'd like to find a way to make it work. All of those are what I help women do. And I help women do it in a way that protects your body, keeps you from getting sicker, keeps you from getting more stressed. It makes the whole process graceful. You actually evolve and become what you want to be because you learn how to manage your own nervous system. You learn how to manage your own body. So it's not just advice or good advice, therapy. That's not really what I do. What I do is I teach women back their own control over their own bodies. So today we're going to be talking about how do empaths get trapped by narcissists. So empaths are people who have a higher level of sensitivity to feelings and the emotions and the environment that they're, for whatever reason, genetically, trauma, family patterns, if they were in an alcoholic family, if they were in a family that was dysregulated, people who go through those sorts of things, usually many of them develop more highly developed nervous systems. Not everybody, but if you're an empath, you probably have come from a family that is a little more dysregulated. And being in that family where there was a little bit of crazy actually took your skills and gifts and heightened them and almost turned them into your superpower. So an empath is someone who can feel emotionally, physically, energetically, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of life force around them. So they can talk to trees, they'll talk to the earth, they'll know what someone else is thinking. I remember when I was, for the longest time, I would make fun of myself. Because I'd get really uncomfortable. I'd be around other people and I'd get uncomfortable. And so I'd make a joke. And unfortunately, what would happen is because I was an empath and didn't know it, I was picking up what other people were thinking and feeling. I was recognizing it, and I thought that they were mine. I thought that they were my feelings. I thought that they were my experiences. And because I thought they were mine, I would blurt something out. I'd laugh at myself. I'd, make a joke. One of the most memorable ones was when someone was scratching their head, and I said, "Oh, you've got lice." And they said, "You know what? When I was a kid, I did have lice, and it was terrible. They had to shave my head. I was traumatized by it." These things would happen to me all the time. And so it was important for me to get into a career that allowed me to be empathic, that allowed me to be sensitive and nurturing and to hear other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions and have it work for me instead of have it be a detriment, instead of walking around. And, it's almost like the Long Island medium. She'll go around and she'll see things and she'll go up to people and say stuff, but she knows she's doing it. She knows she's going up to someone and saying, "Oh, I see your grandfather. I see your grandmother around you." If you're an empath, many times you don't know you're picking up the feelings and thoughts of everyone else. And because you don't know, because you're not sure, you think it's yours. And so many times, empaths are people who are considerate and kind. They're caring. They're thoughtful. One of my mentors would say, empaths like everybody to get along because when everybody gets along, they feel good. When everybody's in a good space, they feel good. Empaths do not like it when people don't get along. It dysregulates them. It makes them feel a little crazy. It makes them feel off balance because they aren't able to shut out the emotions and the feelings of other people who are going through their own crazy. And so we get triggered. And this is kind of what happens, how empaths get trapped by narcissists. Narcissists are people who can be very mysterious because on the outside to other people or when they first meet you, they're extremely charming. They're polished. They're kind. They're thoughtful. And what they're really doing is they're gathering information about you. They're finding out, how are you going to react to things? What happens if I do this? I remember a story I got from one of my clients who, they were sitting in a car at near the beginning of the relationship, within, I don't know, the first 3 to 6 months. And he was driving and she was in the passenger seat, and suddenly he turns to her and he just slaps her in the face. He backhands her in the face. And she, of course, was understandably upset. Like, what just happened to me? And he apologized. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I lost my temper. I just, I didn't mean to do it. It was a mistake. It was an accident. Came up with all sorts of reasons as to why I just backhanded her. And he apologized. She said, oh, okay. And she let it go. But then things started to escalate. Verbal attacks started to escalate. Emotional attacks started to escalate. Things started to get a little bit more dicey. Because a narcissist was testing to see whether this was someone who would let them get away with it. And empaths, because we get hijacked and triggered very quickly from other people, we would end up in a place of not having clear thinking, of not having clear emotions. It gets very muddied. It was like me, making jokes about lice because I didn't know what's mine and I didn't know what was theirs. And so a narcissist on the outside looks very kind, looks very loving and gentle, like Prince Charming. They look like someone that, fits every romance novel hero that you've ever seen. And that's because they test out people in their relationships to see who will let them get away with it and who won't. And empaths, because of their highly sensitive nervous system, because they probably came from relationships, families that were so dysregulated that they were used to it. They were used to feeling off balance. They were used to feeling a little bit crazy, that empaths don't take it too seriously. We just say, oh, well, I'm being upset. I'm being oversensitive. I'm being thoughtless. I'm not being kind enough. What can I do to help make the situation better? That's just the natural temperament of an empath. What can I do to make things better? Because we want everybody to get along. We want everybody to be happy because that's how you feel the best. You feel the best when everybody around you is getting along. And so on the outside, a narcissist will look like he's getting along. But on the inside, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're aggravated, they're off balance. And so as soon as they get a chance where they can express this conflict that's going on inside of them, they do. And so you can be at a party, you can be at a family thing, and a narcissist, everyone will love them. They'll be the life of the party. They'll be somebody who's charming and pays attention to everybody. And everyone will be like, I wish I was with this Prince Charming. And then you get into a corner or you go to the bathroom, and let's say they come in after you into the bathroom, and then they start viciously talking to you under their breath. They start telling you how you're useless and worth nothing and never will be. That's the inner conflict that a narcissist is going through. They're going through this outside, version of how do I get along with an inside version that says, I feel crazy and I need to do something about these feelings. And because all along you've let them get away with this, because you thought, what did I do? How did I how did I cause this? What can I control? How do I make this stop? And many times empaths, because they're used to feeling oversensitive, because they're used to feeling hijacked from other people and sensing other people's emotions, because of that, they tend to take it. They're like, I don't want to be that person. I spent a really long time thinking everybody was a 4-year-old molested little girl. That everybody came from this place of being taken advantage of and hurt. And who would ever get mad if it caused such pain? Who would ever attack someone else if it caused such pain? And the only types of people who would do, you must deserve it. If they're causing you pain, if they're doing this to you and they've trapped you in the bathroom or trapped you in a car, trapped you on, in a corner, and they're telling you what a horrible human being you are, and how you're nothing and how they're going to get you later and how you deserve everything that you get. This is what empaths end up going through. Many people don't realize that. So there's this dynamic. You've got someone who's sensitive, who feels everything around them, and would never treat someone badly because it's against their nature. They've been traumatized and hurt too many times. And so an empath will very rarely fight back or attack because all they remember is how many times they were attacked, how many times they were treated less than and minimized, respected. So it's almost like a code of honor. Empaths have a code of honor to do no harm. I don't know about you, but I read all those mystical, magical books. Do no harm, do no harm. And so whenever we get cornered by someone who's dealing with that level of insecurity, we think, do no harm. Don't hurt anyone. Don't attack. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't fight back. And in fact, you end up feeling so frozen and out of control that you don't. You stand there and you take it. And then you wonder to yourself, what just happened? How did this happen to me? Oh, Kimberly, see your chat. How exciting is that? So I'm describing your dad. We get cornered because narcissists are feeling bad and they're thinking, oh, they feel. And you're the only one who will let them verbalize it, who will let them take it out on them. It's like a dirty little secret. A narcissist knows that they're imbalanced. And in fact, many times they have a more highly sensitive nervous system too. They're sensitive to what's going on around them. And so they get triggered. They get triggered by their environment. They get overwhelmed by their environment. And to them, the only answer is to find the one person, whether it's a child. This is how children end up getting, molested and have family violence, or they'll attack their wife, because because they have to. Well, you're the one who chose to marry me, and because you chose to marry me, then you clearly deserve it. It's your fault for marrying me. You should have never married me. I mean, these are the justifications and the explanations that a lot of narcissists give. It's your fault that you are in a relationship with me. It's your fault that I'm abusing you. It's your fault that you're even taking it personally, that you're not being sensitive to the fact that I'm overwhelmed, or sensitive to the fact that that I feel small, or that I feel misunderstood, or that I feel miserable, and it's your fault. Now, a narcissist is saying these things in their own head. They are actually what they feel, but they never really knew what it felt like to be on the other side of the table. They never knew what it felt like to be that 4-year-old little molested girl. They never were able to tap into that. They just stayed with that rage and stayed with that hurt and started to attack people. Now, many times, people who are narcissists, they have an underlying something going on. They've got ADD, ADHD, bipolar, their hormones are off. And then when you have something like that, an imbalance like that, and you add trauma or stress, then they can't handle it. And because they've always found empaths to be in their life, empaths that they can take it out on, people who've allowed them and as a child, you have nothing, you can't do anything but allow it to happen to you. You really don't have any choices. And so children are victimized over and over and over and over and over. And typically they're the empathic children because they're so sensitive that it just completely overwhelms you. And there isn't anything you can do except many times just take it. Take it until you can't take it anymore. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait until you're destroyed. You don't have to let a narcissist destroy you. Kimberly put it really well in her chat. Once she screamed to have him get away from her, then it was nice and quiet the same day. The rest of the day. This is what happens. So what you learn is how to get past the things that keep you from standing up for yourself. Stop seeing everybody as you. To stop seeing everybody as someone who doesn't want to do no harm. to stop seeing any values and the same ethics as you do. They are very weak. Kimberly mentions that they're very weak. They could have mirrored what they inflict. No, never. They could have never handled it. No one's spoken to them that way. No one's ever stood up to them that way. This is what happens. It's why narcissist empathic relationships typically completely self-destruct. They implode. You know, the women stand up and they do the heavy lifting and they handle the emotions, because if you've been empathic, you've been handling your own overwhelming emotions for a long, very good skill, a very good talent at suppressing things and putting them down into your belly or putting them down into another part of you. You've learned how to manage your feelings because you refuse to ever be the sort of person that would attack and belittle and minimize anybody else that way. Now, a narcissist, on the other hand, they learned early on that people would let them get away with it. Oh, it's cute. He's having a temper tantrum. Oh, well, we'll just ignore him and walk away. We'll just tolerate it because he's really not a threat. He's a little kid. And so these children who would get dysregulated often were comfortable taking it out on other people because nobody ever saw them as a threat. And it became their pattern of being, their pattern of living, their pattern of expressing themselves. You know, be an angel outside the house, and when they get inside the house, then they're monsters. They're horrible monsters because of this conflict that they have, this inner conflict. So empaths end up feeling that inner conflict, being overwhelmed by the inner conflict, having a code of ethics that keep them from behaving in ways that would fight back or protect themselves. Instead, they learned you suppress it, you control it, you manage it, you find some other way to deal with it, you take it. And a narcissist is able to convince you that it's your fault, that you did something to deserve this. And because your nature is to say, what did I do? How can I stop this? How can I stop someone from feeling so, overwhelming? Because I want to be with them, because they, I love them for some reason. They're my parent, or they're my family, my brother, my family member. They're my cousin or my aunt or my uncle. And you love them. This is where trauma bonds actually come from. Yes, Kimberly says empaths take the high road very young. Yes, they do. You take the high road when you're young, partially because it's the best way to stay safe. If you're young and you're empathic and people are raging around you, one of the ways to handle it is to people please, is to not react, to take the high road. That's how you handle your stress. You learn that it's too dangerous to say anything, especially if you're female. You're female, you're vulnerable, they're bigger than you, way bigger than you. You aren't super strong. You're always looking up to people. You don't have that shift in adolescence where suddenly you're bigger than your dad. You're always smaller than your dad. You're always, smaller than many other people around you. And so because of that dynamic, narcissists are looking for you. They're looking for people that will allow them, just like they were allowed when they were a kid, to express themselves and the frustration in the way that they do, which is to minimize and scream and diminish. Yes, it's a love-hate relationship for sure. Most of our trauma bonds happen or start when we're young. And then by the time a narcissist comes into our life as an adult, they're just re-triggering that same trauma bond. Many trauma bonds happened a long time ago, or they come down from because narcissists and empaths have been getting together for a very long time. Because it's a pattern. It's not you. It's not personal. It's the pattern of how you handle your empathic nature. And when you learn how to handle your empathic nature differently, you start to grow up. You start to find that you do have more power and control. And it's not always the best way to just take it and make nice and smooth everything over. That's not the best way. It's not in the best interest of you or the narcissist. Because if you do love a narcissist, you don't want them to behave that way. You don't want them to feel the way that they feel. And many times being tough and standing up for yourself is the only way that they'll back down, because they are weak, because they do feel fragile, because they do feel overwhelmed, because they do feel scared, they do feel insecure. And this is how they handle it. And as I said, people let them get away with it. It was cute. It was funny. It was something easy to ignore. Or you could just lock them in a, put them in a room. You could just walk away from them. You could, you could do something to them that just let them burn themselves out. It wasn't a threat. But these child narcissists become adult narcissists. And then they are a threat because they have power and strength and money and support and charm. So on the one hand, of course, you want to love and be with a narcissist because they've got that side of them, which is regulated and good and wants to be a good person. But then they have this other side that they keep controlled, at least until they get in your presence. Yes, only after we learn self-respect and self-belief do we learn about boundaries. It all comes tied together. Thank you, Kimberly. It is sad because it's a dynamic that's been happening for thousands of years. Someone's dysregulated and they take it out on someone who lets them, because the person who lets them, the empath, thinks that this is the right way to go. We need to be love and light. We need to be kind no matter what. You know what? It's a big, big world. Being kind isn't always the answer. Or sometimes being kind is tough love. It's not the soft, ooey gooey love. Sometimes love looks like, I'm done, I'm walking away, I'm getting a divorce, I'm cutting off contact. Love many times can look exactly like that. Love can look like standing up for yourself. Love can look like holding narcissists accountable for their behavior. Love can look like walking away, just like Kimberly did, as far as possible. Many times, that's an expression of love from an empath, because they're not going to go in and wade in and start destroying a narcissist. They're not even going to try. It's not in their nature. It goes completely against their belief system. It would be like ripping themselves apart. So instead, love many times is walking away and not letting yourself be trapped in that dynamic, change, doing something differently. And sometimes, many times, when you change how you behave, when you embrace and be okay with standing up for yourself and with reminding people and reminding narcissists and holding them accountable, when you start to do that, many times the narcissist, you end up having a little bit with them. Because you respect yourself, they start to respect you more. Yes. Kimberly says these narcs only take advantage of vulnerability and kindness. Yes, exactly. They don't take advantage of people who can stand up because that's intimidating. They only take advantage of people they feel safe with, which tends to be kindness, vulnerable, nice people, their wives, because that's the only safe place where they feel they can express this duality they inflict, this pain, this misery. They have that there's another way to deal with your pain, and it doesn't have to do with destroying your relationships. So sadly, many narcissists end up the end of their life with no one caring about them except some stranger that's maybe been hired. They end up without their kids wanting anything to do with them. They end up isolated and they don't know why. Yes, Kimberly says they refuse to change almost always. It is up to us to change. If we truly love someone, if we truly love ourselves, it's up to us to step into that version of ourselves that says no more. Because that's an important role for us to have. Because empaths are the glue, they're the lubricant, they're the things that hold us together and make relationships smoother. They're the ones that sort of polish off the edges. We're the relationship people. Empaths are the ones that make relationships work. We're the ones that will go the extra mile. that will put more effort in, that will tolerate more than anybody else will tolerate, because that's our nature. So many times we're targets. We're the prey of someone who is looking for someone to recreate the experience they had as a kid, to just let them be as angry and nasty and vicious and horrible as they were then, because they didn't know how to handle things. But now as an adult, why? Why handle things? It doesn't really matter. People let me get away with it anyways. And if I just find the right person, they'll let me get away with it for the rest of my life. But here's the deal, as I said, most empaths learn, we grow, we start to stand up for ourselves, we start to change that dynamic, because we realize that by growing ourselves, it doesn't do anybody any good at all. Kimberly says, no more bullies. Yes, no more bullying. We have to learn as empaths to stand up to bullies, because other people won't. They'll just avoid them. They'll just go away. They'll just, wave their hand and say, well, it's somebody else's problem. And you, the empath, are the one that's trapped with them, stuck dealing with all that rage and all that anger, listening to everybody tell you how wonderful the person is and how lucky you are to have them in your life. And that's typically what happens. Is there's, the narcissist that's charming, and then there's the narcissist that takes it out on the person that will let them, which is the empath. So if you're in this relationship, you've probably had narcissist relationships most of your life. And as an adult, you're starting to recognize that being nice to someone isn't always the answer. Being nice how you were taught to be nice, how women are taught to be nice, how women are taught to accept it and be responsible. We're taught these things. And you're realizing that all that stuff you were taught was a lie. It was a lie. That was the lie. That the best way the world works is just by taking it. That advice is true for narcissists. The advice of you need to be more compassionate, you need to be more loving. That's what's in the self-help realm, but that's not for empathic women. That's for men or other narcissists, men or women. Men and women are both narcissists. That's for them. Empaths need different advice. We need advice on how to calm ourselves down, how to stand up for ourselves, and the way to do it in integrity, without losing your cool, without behaving like a lunatic, because that's what narcissists make you feel and do, because you feel everything they're going through. Can you imagine what it's like to be in their body? Oh my God. You feel what it's like just to listen to them. I can't even imagine what it's like to live that dysregulated, that conflicted all of the time. And that's what you're feeling. So, if you feel trapped, if you don't know what to do next, if you know you're sensitive, if you feel lost, you're probably dysregulated. Go to inspiremassage.com, check me out. We've got a wonderful group of women where we come together and we support each other through the process of learning how to stand up for yourself, of learning how to take back all that power that you gave away, of how to break the trauma bond. You get the love and the kindness and the support and the assertiveness, as Kimberly says, to finally take back and step into the world in the version of you that you were meant to be, a strong, empathic woman. And you know what that means? That means you're going to be one of the coolest people on the planet, because not only are you soft and sensitive, but you also know how to use that sensitivity to make the world a better place. Because your ultimate goal is not to create conflict. Remember, empaths don't like conflict. Empaths like everybody to get along. Your ultimate goal as an empath is to make the world a better place. That's your goal. And so when you start to learn how to stand up for yourself, you will start making the world a better place. Because then you're going to role model and teach other empathic women how to hold people who are narcissists accountable and help them, maybe, if they feel like it, have a better life than dying alone and sad and disconnected. So thank you, Kimberly. I think you're awesome as well. And I'm glad you're here with us. I'm glad all of you are here with us. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope to see you tomorrow. And let's do this, okay? Have a great day.